Hello, everybody. Barry Schreier, president of Army and Navy Academy. Today, I have the distinct honor of being here with a graduate of the Academy, class of 2020. I'll remind you all that that was in the midst of the COVID craziness. So, our guest today, GunnarJohnson, lived on campus through that. We might be able to have have a chance to take a few minutes and reminisce a little bit about what that special experience was like. We did not have a COVID experience, not one case on this campus during COVID.
Isn't that phenomenal?
It was incredible. I think it's just due to the fact that you guys were extraordinary. Again, Gunnar was class of 2020. He was our command sergeant major, which most of you know is a position of supreme authority on our campus. I'm going to let him tell his story. It's extraordinary. We'll work through it over the next few minutes or so. And he just had a chance to talk to the boys in our chapel. And it was such a good discussion about helping the boys understand what his experience was like here and what his experience has been like after being at the academy, and how the academy was very helpful for him in putting him in positions of success. And we'll talk through a lot of that success because he's doing some pretty extraordinary things right now. So, Gunnar, again, thank you for doing what you did today. The boys loved it. You can see the expression when some of our speakers are here. The boys are in a different place, and you put them there today. It was really extraordinary. So let's start. You were here for 2 years.
Yes.
And I love this. You told the boys the story. Start from there.
Okay. Well, first off, similar to the chapel, thank you for having me here today. Thank you for welcoming me into this space with open arms. And yeah, for most importantly, giving me a voice to speak to the court. It's been awesome. So yeah, kind of jumping right into my story, and kind of one thing that we talked about earlier was obviously my very limited time here on campus, but a very impactful and eventful time here on campus. And it essentially starts out as I came from Minneapolis, Minnesota. I went to your typical run-of-the-mill public school, and I was just not succeeding in the way that, well, at the time, I guess I didn't know how to succeed. But I was not doing well in
Interesting.
school. I was prioritizing sports, sure, but everything kind of beyond that in terms of extracurriculars, academics, social life even, I was not doing well. I was not proud of the person I was being in doing that. So one day, after a day at school during my junior year, I decided that I needed to change. And I decided that with the ambition of being a part of the United States military, more specifically, the United States Navy. And I started looking around for military schools. I found a couple schools on the East Coast. I then found this school located in Texas. And then additionally, I looked on the West Coast and I found the Army and Navy Academy in San Diego, California. To where at that point, I called the kind of the guy in charge of recruiting and admissions and everything like that, Darian Knox, and I called him on the phone and said, "Hey, my name is GunnarJohnson. You have no idea who I am, but I want a shot at coming to the Army and Navy Academy. Like, what are the steps that one kind of needs to take to do that?"
Right.
So he helped me very fluidly set up an interview, set up the whole tour process, and I set up that. I booked my ticket, and then a day before coming out here, I told my mom, "Hey, I'm going to go look at a military boarding school in California. This is what I want to do."
How'd that conversation go?
She was supportive, but she was definitely surprised. It was kind of at that weird time where she knew as a parent, my dad knew as well as a parent, that college applications were just around the corner. And I think as parents, they weren't too sure what that was going to look like for me. It's a discussion that we've breezed over in the past. But I think the transition into coming here, my mom knew right away, okay, like, this is something I'm going to pursue and support, and whatever that needs to happen. So booked my ticket, came out here, had the interview, did the tour. And on that tour at that time, I met the battalion commander at the time. And I went up to him and I said, "Hey, to my understanding, you're the head chef around here. You're the guy in charge. You're the guy that everybody sees." When I was here in attendance, his pictures were everywhere and everything like that. He was in a video. He lived on the second story, kind of above the chow hall and stuff like that, and I thought that was really cool as well as
The senior palace?
yeah, right? Palace, and I'm seeing him come down the stairs to talk to me, and I said, "I want to be in your position next year. Like, what do I have to do to be in your position next year?" And he said, "Well, first you got to come here." So I fully committed to coming here, and then from then on, Jefferson Kibbe was his name. Kibbe and my TAC officer at the time, Master Sergeant Salisbury,
Yeah.
and Bravo Company really helped me take a huge pivoting step
Yeah.
in my life in terms of mentorship and guidance. And then I got out here, it all kind of started. So it started off as obviously that pursuit of being the battalion commander here on campus, but got to start at the ground level. So I showed up this first couple weeks, freshly shaven head, rest of the new corps coming in, not having a clue to who anybody is or what I'm even doing here. And I see this guy with this big flag, essentially. I didn't even know what it was called at the time. I'm like, how do I be that guy? Like, that guy stands up in front of us, but he looks like he's important.
That's perfect.
What can I do to
Yeah.
be that guy? So my tag officer at the time was like, well, you gotta earn people's respect. Like, nobody here knows who you are. You gotta start getting your name in people's heads. Like, okay, like, what exactly does that look like? And he's like, I want you to go down to the cadet store every day and sweep the cadet store after school. So I'm like, oh, brother. I'm like, he told me what I'm going to do. I'm not just going to go not do it. You have to go do this stuff. You have to put in the work. So I'm like, okay. Like, be the guy that gets to march with the big flag in front of everybody. Like, I'll go sweep the cadet store. So every day after school, went down and I sweep the cadet store. And what I quickly learned in the lesson that he was telling me in that or teaching me in that was that everybody who goes in the cadet store, which is basically every student every day, whether it's going to go down and get a snack or some sweet apparel or anything like that for, if it's a parent with the alumni association or anything of that regard, is everybody will see me cleaning. Everybody will see me doing some sort of work.
Yeah.
And they ask, why are you sweeping every day? Oh, I want to be the guide on. I want to be the guide on. So when 2 or 3 weeks later of me being at this boarding school, this preparatory school, when my TAC officer eventually asked the company here, hey, who should we put forth as guide on? And they asked the intercompany leadership. Everybody had me as a name
Yeah.
right away. So, well, we see Gunnar, he's sweeping every single day. And when we ask him what he wants to be, he says he's doing it to be guide on. So in their eyes at the time, in which I learned later, I was really the only pick to be guide on. So that was cool. Stood up there proudly. I still have the forearm muscles from holding that thing
You got to work.
every day. It was a work. The first few weeks getting used to that thing, it was tough. And then obviously that kind of evolved again, still this ever-growing pursuit of pursuing the battalion commander. Now, keep in mind, at this time, nobody had ever been a one-year student, a single-year student, especially coming in as a junior to then become the battalion commander. Right? It was unheard of. You just couldn't do it. Which I'll kind of circle back to later a little bit, but with the BC's advice and with Master Sergeant's advice, at the time, my TAC officer, I said, all right, what's next? Limited time here.
Right.
What's next? He's like, well, you're in the guide on position, so we can't really put you in like a squad leader or team leader position or anything like that, but we can work towards platoon sergeant. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What do we have to do for becoming a platoon sergeant? He's like, well, got to keep sweeping.
Yeah.
And tell everybody you want to be the Bravo platoon sergeant. Go in there with your flag and say, hey, I got my flag, but this is what I want to do next. So I kept sweeping. Guys would come in, especially within my company, around the corps. Hey, why are you still sweeping? Oh, I want to be platoon sergeant. So when that like half year mark rolled around, like just before Christmas break or something like that, just after Christmas break, of working towards being platoon sergeant and I eventually started doing a little more things. I started staying later in the chow hall and help cleaning up the chow hall and stuff like that, helping cadet life where I could, helping the custodians where I could. Everybody knew that I wanted to pursue the platoon sergeant role. And so eventually, with my efforts and putting the time in through sports and through academics, talking with teachers who have a very big say in kind of the leadership here as well,
Right.
because they need to trust the leaders of the school
Yeah.
as well to make their jobs easier. I was able to earn that platoon sergeant spot, which was awesome. But then same thing, continuing on here with my story, I'm prioritizing my academics, which drastically changed here. I mean, just the ability for the teachers to focus on that sense of learning for young men, for boys,
Exactly.
is uh is something that I didn't even know how important that was until I came here,
Right.
especially coming from that public school environment. And I went to a private school actually when I was younger. K through 7, I did
Mm.
go to a private school, but it wasn't that all boys sense of learning private school. And even though again, this is a prep school, a private school, the teachings are vastly different,
Right.
and it is so crucial to a boy's development. And I saw that firsthand in my academics.
Right.
I
What did
went
you say?
from
You went from a 1.4 to a 3.8 in your first year?
a 1.4 to a 3.8.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that wasn't just because, like, my mom and dad be like, "Oh, is school easy?" I'm like, "No, school is drastically harder, but I'm learning," was the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Like, they foster an environment of growth. You guys did, the school did, the teachers did, where if I truly struggled with something, I was forced to struggle.
Right.
Versus in the environment I was in before, I can struggle, whatever. I'll kind of scrap and move on to the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing. Versus here is like, hey, you didn't do well on this test. You didn't do well on this project. You didn't do well on this assignment. Like, you're going to come do it again until you figure it out,
Yeah.
and we're going to
Right.
find a different way to teach you that until you eventually figure out how to do it and it sticks with you. So, progressing through my academics, progressing through sports with the awesome athletics here and Coach Brunson. Um, yeah, then that time kind of rolled around where, the JROTC and the leadership further played into it. Doing the drill team, I wanted to do well, which I think is a big thing. You have to want to do well. But eventually the time came to campaign for that BC position.
Position. Right.
Yeah, and so BC at the time, Jefferson Kivy is like, all right, you have to be involved in ASB. It's like the associate student body. You have to get involved in the honor council. You have to be involved in commenting for the football games on Friday
Yeah.
if you weren't going to play in them. Like all those little things that you don't really think about play a huge role
Right.
into essentially what it was. I was campaigning. I was campaigning for myself into getting this leadership position and networking and just developing my skills to just do well. So eventually, yeah, it came time, around that March time frame of my junior year where you start campaigning for the associate student body position, for honor council, for, captains of the various athletics and stuff like that.
And what our listeners may not know is that those are elected positions on this campus. So your peers were choosing you for that, which
Absolutely.
makes a big statement.
Absolutely.
So because they're saying, hey, we trust this person.
Absolutely right. Yep. So yeah, that's I'm glad you brought that up. But it was a campaign. You couldn't be a bad guy. There's very few
Right.
bad guys on campus. I'm reluctant to use those words, but you couldn't be somebody that wasn't trusted. You couldn't be somebody
Yeah.
that was seen as a person who puts forth a lack of effort.
Right.
You had to be somebody in all facets of, hey, that is somebody who tries. That is somebody who wants to do well. And that's where I think the extracurriculars play such a huge and crucial role in development here that it allowed me to advocate for myself and campaign for myself and being the, you know, student body vice president or the class representative or the honor council member or anything that I was doing, captains of the various athletics. It allowed me to campaign for myself in a way that was tied into this greater goal of being the BC. So after campaigning for myself and after, the school is awesome about giving students the opportunity of speeches and times to talk and to just develop their character through these different skills, social skills, which are vitally important. But I was able to earn the position of command sergeant major, which wasn't the battalion commander, which at the time as my mom would say and my dad would say, I greatly struggled with, because
Yeah.
you put forth this huge amount of effort, this huge, and, for a 19, 20-year-old kid, an immense amount of pressure on yourself in this pursuit to accomplish this goal, to just come up short, it hurt. It was unfortunate. I was bummed about it, but then, it was.
It's interesting, for the listeners that may not know it, you may not have gotten the number 1 position, you got the number 2
Yeah,
position.
yeah,
So, for clarity, there wasn't a substantial fall from grace here at all, right?
yeah.
But to your very point is that you had a serious aspiration, and you took it as, I failed here." It wasn't, "I did not succeed."
Mhm.
We have to be careful about, I think, the use of the term failure,
Yep.
but the productive part of that is that it says, "All right, now what?
Mhm,
What are you gonna do with this?"
mhm.
Right? You didn't say, "Hey, I'm not returning to school," or "I'm done." It was, "All right, watch how great I can be at this position."
That's exactly right.
Because that CSM position makes a big impact on this campus.
Yeah,
Really big impact.
absolutely.
And what's interesting about that too is that as as the campus wide is making a decision, they're really trying to match someone's personal skill sets with that job function.
Absolutely.
And some cases you say, there is nobody else but that guy.
Mhm.
So it's not as if you didn't get a position. It's that if you had to chisel somebody into a position, it's that guy,
Yeah.
right? And you were that guy.
Uh,
And it was obvious why you're the CS.
totally.
Right?
And that's the lesson that I learned from that. And it's something that I was very narrowly focused on seeing at the time. But thank goodness that I was the CSM
Yeah.
for that 2020 school year, because I learned so much in that pursuit. And that's honestly probably the greatest lesson that I learned in that junior year here at Army Navy Academy was it's not about the goal. It's not about the overall outcome, because, and if we're going to be honest with ourselves, more oftentimes than not, you're not going to get that number
Yeah.
one thing. It doesn't happen.
Only one person's going to get it.
It's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you learn to love the pursuit of whatever goal you're pursuing, you are going to be able to go so far. And that's what that lesson taught me. That's the lesson that I continue to learn every day with every, I guess, substantial goal that I'm
Right.
pursuing. Right. So, yeah, in being, I got the CSM position, managed to have a fun campaign with the other stuff as well. So, my role with AFSB, my role on Honor Council, my role in leading the drill team, and one of the most fun roles was also being this marketing figure as well for the school at the
Right.
time, which was totally not within the cards of anything that I thought could happen.
Yeah.
But it was awesome. It was great. And that transitioned into my senior year. And then, yeah, kind of up
It's that
until
film of you getting out of your rash.
actual,
Right.
yeah, brushing
I
my
still use it.
pop in my collar. Oh, I know. I was just
Brilliant.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that in a movie theater for the first time. It was
it
one of
really neat?
the cadet life events on the Saturdays when
Right.
everybody goes to the movies, and there's 30 of us in the movie theater. I'm trying to remember what movie we were watching, but
Yeah, we used to.
all of a sudden my face comes on out of nowhere, and I'm like, "Whoa! I did not know this was happening."
That's great.
That was a pretty surreal experience. But yeah, we continued into senior year, and it was awesome. I had so much fun.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a period of some change going on amongst the school as well, and I felt that between my staff, the BC at the time, Dojin Kim, the S3 Jacob Meyer, and the XO Zahur Khan. Us four, we had this awesome staff, and that we really, as I felt in my time here as a senior, were able to have some like genuine impact on the school, between stuff that I like to do and stuff that I was involved in. As I think the things that I campaigned for,
Yeah.
stuff that the BC wanted to do, the S3 wanted to do, the XO wanted to do. I felt like as a whole, we really made an impact on this school that I now, coming back 7 years later, I'm still seeing, which is awesome. But yeah, we had fun, and I learned so many things. And in being the CSM, you're talking about that chiseled role, yeah, right? Like the president at the time, the board at the time, all the teachers and the staff and everybody at the time, like they knew who I was through this campaign effort. So then, in terms of being the CSM, for those listening, the CSM essentially manages the 300 students for the most part. Well, the BC kind of handles all like the admin stuff behind the scenes, is kind of a good way to describe it. Another
The
analogy,
men belong to you.
yeah, another way we kind of use the analogy in the Navy now is you have the officers, which are the coaches, and then you have the enlisted guys who are the players. And so that's exactly what it was. And so I got to go out and I got to be myself with all of my classmates and everybody else that was in the school, and it was awesome.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It was awesome.
Let's transition because you had another bit of a disappointment, right? You came here, you really wanted to go to the Naval Academy. You applied to the Naval Academy, and they did you did they did not accept your application.
Yep.
You didn't quit. You ended up going off to Norwich.
Correct.
Let's start there. So you're off to Norwich, and you're there. You're playing D3 lacrosse.
Correct.
You're an extraordinary lacrosse player here. I think you still hold all these different school records, and you're playing there. And let's take it from there because you're in Norwich. You expect, of course, to go there and graduate.
So yeah, Norwich was a trip in itself for sure. So I went to Norwich. I only went for 1 year. I didn't go there on scholarship or nothing. I went on there. I went to Norwich with the full anticipation that I was going to use it as a jump, get back into the naval.
Right. Right.
That is why I went there. And many people do that, and it works out
Very
very well
common.
for them.
Right.
And so I went there and using the skills that I learned from Army and Navy Academy, same thing. I started sweeping the cadet store there. Keating up.
Perfect.
Started
Perfect.
sweeping the student store there. I started to help pick up the chow hall when I could. I got involved in my extracurriculars there, where I was doing this thing called Norwich Rangers, which was a pretty, I guess, prestigious extracurricular option there. Was heavily involved in that. And then on top of that, I was doing the NCAA D3 lacrosse with a awesome team, awesome coach at the time. Again, all navigating it during this kind of COVID period. And
Right.
so it was all weird.
2021, still COVID.
Yeah. So
Right.
yeah, this was August starting of 2020 going into 2021. So through that first semester, again with my efforts and the stuff that I had learned from my time at Army Navy Academy, I was able to earn a NROTC full ride scholarship.
Yeah.
Which was awesome. That was exactly what I wanted to do. I think at the time I was one of 14 accepted to get that scholarship. And how it works at Norwich is you join the Corps there, but not everybody there is on scholarship, and not
Right.
everybody there is guaranteed to go into the military.
Yeah.
So you can be a senior in the Corps there, but if you don't have your ROTC or NROTC or AFROTC scholarship, you're not in the military.
Right.
And so as far as getting a scholarship there, it was a very competitive thing to do. And so I was very, very blessed enough to receive that scholarship. And then as kind of we got into this weird little environment where as COVID progressed into 2021, as some stuff happened, I had some family things going at the time as well. I kind of took a step back and I said, is this really where I want to be? Is this really what I want to do? And again, I was still applying for the Naval Academy. I had my congressional and senatorial nominations, packet was ready to go, everything squared away. But I just had this thought. I was like, is this really what I want to do? And the answer was no. So I unenrolled from Norwich, forgave my NROTC scholarship that I had earned, and I pivoted and went to the University of Denver. There I was, again, same lessons I learned from Norwich, same lessons I learned from an Army Navy Academy. I applied all those lessons learned into the degrees that I was pursuing. I applied those lessons learned into the lacrosse environment at the University of Denver, where we basically single-handedly started University of Denver men's club lacrosse from the ground up again. And I started that from I was their social chair, grew to the vice president for a year, and then I ultimately ended up being the president of that club for 2 years, earning, various conference honors and stuff like that in the mix for the MCLA. Uh, got got awesome degree uh, within the engineering department and the physics departments there. Some fantastic minors in leadership.
Did you say you had 2 majors and 5 minors?
Yeah, so it's part of it turns out medical physics and then mechanical engineering with the concentration in biomechanics. And then it turns into the minors are kind of part of that engineering environment, but the two offshoots minors that I had were besides the physics, the math, and then then I had leadership, econ, and entrepreneurship. Um, so kind of just being a well-rounded student. But then I got involved with the stuff that was more impactful beyond school was like the peer mentoring aspect, obviously coaching in lacrosse. And then when it came to my junior and senior, I got really heavily invested in the internship side of things, which is great, bringing in stuff from the Army and Navy Academy. And one of the most important things, especially in a college student's journey, is getting those internships, right? So starting your sophomore, junior year, I actually got my first internship after my freshman year coming off of Norwich because of my time at Army and Navy Academy. I was able to show them this growth that I had. I was able to tell them the position that I finished as, the extracurriculars that I had at this high school, and so athletics that I contributed to, and ultimately what I did as a military leadership based individual.
Right.
I was able to earn an awesome internship in sales where I also just learned a ton of lessons in that regard. But a later transition, I was able to land a phenomenal gig being a mechanical engineering intern for this company called Carlisle. They're a Fortune 500 firm, great firm, and really grew with them as well. But again, everything I learned, I had that foundational base that started with sweeping.
That's
It's like always like Karate Kid ass.
Yeah,
Exactly. Slap the water, wax on, wax off. Like that's what it felt like at times.
right.
And having those lessons learned has transitioned into the time here at Norwich, at University of Denver, and the extracurriculars and the academics there, uh, to jobs outside of school, and even growing and being offered a job after my internships.
So here you are you're graduating now, and you're saying,
Yes.
"What's next?"
Yep.
Right? You have your college degrees, a few of them at this point,
Yep.
right? You have 2 majors, and you're thinking, "All right, what do I wanna do now?" So you're in
Absolutely.
this period of reflection
Yes.
again.
Yeah.
What happens then?
So yeah, then I dating back to my junior year at that public school for why I jumped to the Army and Navy Academy, I knew military was my calling. As you see me in my uniform here today, that is what I needed to do. And so rather than there's kind of two ways you can go about it for joining the military. There's the officer side and things, and then there's the enlisted side of things. I was doing the officer thing, kind of. I had that NROT scholarship
Right.
lined up. I was slated to, go to OCS eventually after school and whatever path that would take me down. But then I said, an analogy we use in work is, I want to be a player, not a coach.
Right.
Same thing for, as I said before, the CSM to BC realm,
Yeah.
and I kind of obviously taking on the lessons learned and the knowledge learned from my degrees, I've kind of pushed it to the side a little bit. And I said, okay, I'm going to join the United States Navy as an enlisted guy. And so June of 2024, I walked into the recruiting office and I said, I have trained my whole life for this. I am ready to go. Whatever test you need me to do, I'll do it right now. And how they kind of base your qualifications off for the enlisted side, you take this test called the ASVAB.
Mhm.
It's an aptitude test.
Right.
and it was a basic score, 0 to 100. The higher score you get, the more qualifications you can essentially elect to go into in the military. And with my learning habits that I learned here and the way of teaching myself how to study, I was able to get a very, very high ASDAB score. Uh,
Yeah, you made a recruiter really happy that day.
yeah, and I still talk to her. She was psyched. Recruiter Woods, she's awesome. She is this phenomenal lady. She said, "I don't know where you came from, but thank you." And she was great. She actually showed up to all of my senior projects in engineering,
Yeah.
stuff I developed with B. Braun Medical and doing that stuff. And then she showed up for my swearing in. She showed up for
Wow, that's great.
my graduation. She showed up to lacrosse games. She came. She was awesome. Probably because I made her life so easy. Gave a little bit back, but yeah. She said, threw her hands up, said, "Okay, you're gonna take this test on this day. You're gonna do this on this day." This was June of 24. You have a I said, I graduate, I have a year left of school.
Yeah.
There's this program called the Delayed Entry
Right.
Program, DEP. And I went into DEP. You can be in DEP for 365 days. And the way we lined it up is from my time joining to leaving for boot camp, I was in DEP for 363 days. And
Perfect.
yeah, the reason I did that is because while in DEP, you can take various classes, you can go to these trainings,
Right.
essentially, that line you up and put you in better success for when you actually join. There's knowledge-based classes, so you kind of learn the ins and out of the military before you get there. Physical trainings, which for what I'm doing now, that was kind of the biggest appeal why I wanted to do that. It gave me access to a very selective group of people, which was awesome. And then when it came time to actually graduate and go to boot camp, my graduation was June 14th when I would be getting my degree. I left on June 10th, which was kind of a bummer because with COVID, I missed out on my high school
I know.
graduation.
I know.
And
Right.
then was honestly, Army Navy still did a good job with that. During COVID, I actually drove down here with my dad to come pick up all my stuff, and there was this huge banner,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool to see. I think I have a picture of that somewhere. But then I missed out on my college graduation. I've never walked across the stage, ever. Never in my life.
Okay, let's keep. Maybe that's okay.
Yeah, and that's okay for now. Um, yeah. So then going in and going into boot camp, and then same thing, day one values. At boot camp, there's these divisions, right? So essentially you have your boot camp class, 1,000 to 1,500 future sailors, and then it's comprised of these divisions, typically 80 to 100 sailors in a division. And there's the initial P days, which is what is called a Navy boot camp, where it's like, okay, you go get all your shots, you do all your admin work, you do all that. You kind of just get yelled at and get
Right.
deer in the headlights
Okay.
game in first week.
Move it.
And then you get into the boot camp stuff where you're actually learning the needed skills to be a sailor in the Navy. But after P days ended, they were like, all right, who wants to be RPOC, which is this recruit chief petty officer role. And the past week, I've been mopping and sweeping the floors, telling everybody because I went to those classes in depth, like, I want to be RPOC. I want to be
Yeah.
that guy in my division. When it came time to be RPOC, everybody kind of just looked at me like, hey, that guy wants it. Like, he said he's going to be RPOC from the day we started P days. Like,
Right.
Johnson over there is going to be RPOC. And all those lessons learned, I applied it to being an RPOC. For those listening, went to Navy boot camp. A lot of stressors that come with that. Very lack of sleep. Started sleep talking really bad during boot camp, which kind of became a joke in our division. 313. And yeah, I was able to finish boot camp. Unfortunately, not as honor grad, not as the honor sailor, but I was very highly ranked. I believe my RDC said I was top 20 within the boot camp class, which was pretty awesome to hear.
1,200 kids.
Yeah,
So, yeah, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
1,200 sailors, top 20, and ultimately, yeah, that kinda transitioned into being a sailor now. So, enjoying my time in the Navy and having fun, and same thing, I haven't been in for long. I graduated boot camp in August 14th. It's now February 11th.
And what's your assignment now?
So, yeah, I'm pursuing a role in, like, the special operations field. So, that's what I'm actively pursuing, that's what I'm doing, um, navigating buds right now. It's going well.
Right.
Applying all those lessons learned to try and be ultimately, like, the best leader I can be in my class, and just to have fun while doing it at this point.
What's interesting about your story, we went through, a few iterations. You left a public high school, you came here, you left here, you went to Norwich, you left Norwich, you went to University of Denver. But the story, and you the same thing when you went through Navy boot camp. Story is similar each time, right? We said, look, I have aspirations, and I know I have to work for it, and I'm willing to do the work. I, we talked. You and I talked a little bit about this. It sounds so simple, but it's so hard. And the hard part is the showing up, right? It's this everyday aspect of if you're really serious about wanting it, you can't just say it. There's more to it. You have to put in the effort. And again, it sounds simple, right? Um, eh, you know, some people might say that, well, it sounds like you just wanted these leadership roles, you craved them, and you were, in that regard, you were, just hungry for power, right? But what comes along with all of that, of those positions and the effort that goes into it, is the amount of work that it takes to make a difference. Because you could potentially be power hungry and do nothing once you get the power,
Exactly right.
right? Or you could say, "Look at the difference I can make." And you constantly did that. Well, I want those positions because 'cause I'm gonna matter to everybody here,
Absolutely.
right? And everybody's gonna rise because of it. That's what makes a core perfect, right? Beautiful.
Absolutely.
And it and it's that's what I was really appreciative today as you walked the boys through this story, and you said, "Look, things really matter." I love the fact that you said, "Your appearance really matters because it's
Does.
appearance is reality," right? The 40 of you that don't have your top button, you're telling someone something. As I was watching the crowd and you were as well,
Yeah.
we saw a whole
Always
bunch.
trying to do their buds. That's exactly right. I
Perfect.
thought it was awesome. I thought it was awesome.
And they're looking at each other,
Like, oh, he got me.
right.
Yeah.
And because we say it all the time,
Yep.
right? Actually, oftentimes I'm standing outside and
Exactly right.
saying,
Yeah.
and we're pointing out certain things. The boys don't know it yet, but we have actually people out there taking notes,
Oh, yeah.
right?
No, I saw that today.
Yeah.
I saw that today. I
And,
thought it was great.
and it's a subtle thing, but it's subtle, and you got to slowly just move toward, a greater amount of accountability. And really, it was during as we were coming out of COVID, right? It was really right after you left
Yeah.
that the effects of COVID took place, because a lot of the sort of, if you will, lackadaisical nature of that came from oh, we got to give people a lot of space here, a lot of space here, a lot of,
Absolutely.
and as we especially as the school year continues, you try to dial that in. But what you said to them today is, look, people are watching. And you can't just say you wanna do something. You gotta deliver.
That
You
is
gotta
good.
prove to people, everybody, that you want to do this. And your timing is great because here we are, um, working with basically the juniors and the sophomores about their positions for next year,
Yep.
right? This year, we started very early on that. And a lot of that discussion was, "Well, just show us that you mean it."
Yep.
And you said today, "You really should show people that
Yeah,
you
to
mean
show much you mean it. Absolutely. No, that's great.
almost feel like that I put you up to it, and
That's
I
great.
didn't do it.
Yeah.
So I was you couldn't see me, but I was grinning in the
Yeah.
background saying, "This is exactly what the boys need to hear." And they have to hear it from you
Yeah.
because, they see when they're looking up there, they're looking in the mirror. They see themselves and somebody, "He was here, what, 6 years ago? God, that's yesterday."
Yeah.
Right?
One of the
Um,
guys was here when I was
yeah,
here. He was an Echo.
that's right.
I was like a sixth grader, seventh grader, something like that.
Yeah.
When I was to CSM, and he came and said, "Hey, I was here when you were." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"You're the last one. That's pretty cool."
He
'Cause
is.
that's
He is, 'cause he had a repeating year from COVID.
that's what they were saying. Yeah,
That was great. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
yeah,
Yeah, and, but I think this is incredibly effective, having these kind of talks.
absolutely.
One of the reasons we do this, Gunnar, is that we always say, it'd be nice for the boys to be able to look back at these 20, 30 years from now, whenever they want to,
Mhm.
and say, "Who was that guy? He was," and they can go back and look at our, half-hour discussion or whatever that
Absolutely.
is. I think that matters. We're trying to build that library for the boys to be able to be able, to sort of create this media portion of their brotherhood,
Mhm.
right?
It's important,
And
vitally important.
it's hard, right?
Mhm.
But, but we've moved into a very new social media world where you can do that now, which, you were doing podcast work, and it was you and
Yeah,
Joe Rogan.
my senior project here. Yeah, I started a podcast.
And yeah, there wasn't a lot of it. No, that's just great.
Uh-huh.
Listen, well, I don't want to take more of your time, but I want to sum up here. One of the things I said to the boys today is, you gave them a great lesson of, 6 ideas that they should be thinking about, which, I sort of summarize is show up, do the work, and watch what happens, right? You really gave them this talk about it. We talk about the word accountability and the like, but to say, if you really mean something, you'll have to decide what's it take to get it. What amount of effort do I need to put in? Rethink if you really want to put in that amount of effort. And then if you do, go get it.
Exactly.
Go get it. And I thought that was just brilliant. It's something that we'll be using here a lot, and I can't thank you enough for that. Um, and again, you say to him too, look, I'm only 6 years out, and I'm telling you that what you're doing right now is going to matter for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
And it's so important they get to hear it, because those are the messages that at this time, they might get it 10, 20 years from now, right?
Yep.
But when they hear it from you say, yeah, there must be something to it, because he's not that far removed from me today.
No, not at all.
Uh, and so I can't thank you enough for that. And I see it. I really do see how the boys respond to it, because I get to see them listen to everybody, and they heard you today. And that really, really matters. And again, you just like when you were here, you still matter. You still deliver. Still make it work.
Thank you.
You're a absolute shiny example of everything we try to do, because it's a simple lesson, hard to pull off,
Mhm.
about we talk about this foundational idea of what do you want, do what it takes to get it.
Absolutely.
Right. And you proved it to them over and over with each story. They heard it. So again, thank you for doing this. We can't, look, you're in trouble, because we've got you on speed dial.
Okay. No, good.
You even admitted to the boys.
I said it to the
You
boys.
said it to the boys that after you retire,
Yeah.
you would come back.
I
and
want
work
to help.
and work.
I want to help. Yeah.
Perfect. Good. Perfect. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, sir.
Fantastic.
Thanks for having me.
Can't wait to see you again.
Thank you. Yeah, you as well.
It's great. So we appreciate it.